Hello and welcome to DD Sports. I'm Taru Sugandha and welcome our viewers to the new edition of the Olympic Hour. With less than a month to go for the Rio Olympics 2016, the Indian athletics team is all getting ready for the upcoming event in Brazil. This time, a contingent of 36 athletes is representing India as compared to 14 at the London Olympics 2012. This is more than the double, and so our hopes and expectations from the Indian team have also doubled up. To discuss the future and the performance of the athletes, we have with us at the studio tonight three very special guests whom I'd like to introduce to our viewers. Mr. Rupinder Singh, a very warm welcome to the Olympic Hour. It's a pleasure to have you with us.
Thank you.
Mr. Singh has been a successful national junior champion and is now based in Delhi and coaches corporates and youngsters all over Delhi schools and colleges. Our other very special guest, Mr. Anupam Gulati, welcome to the Olympic Hour. It's a pleasure to have you here with us.
Thank you very much, Taru.
Mr. Gulati is a successful sports expert who has himself covered 8 Olympic Games and also the 1992 Olympics from Barcelona for the BBC. Our another very special guest, Mr. G. Rajaraman, a very warm welcome to the Olympic Hour. It's a pleasure to have you here with us.
Thank you very much, Taru.
Mr. G. Rajaraman is a renowned sports journalist and covers the same for the print, TV, web and the radio. Now, as we begin with our discussion tonight, Mr. Rupinder, I'm sure you'll agree with me that understanding the history of anything is very important when we especially talk about sports. You know, the destination is important, but the journey is also very important. Please tell us something about the journey of the athletics sport.
Well, journeys are the most important. In fact, slowly what has started as a movement called the Olympics for participation, and the journey of traversing from 6 to 8 countries, now 206 countries, that is the most important aspect of the development of the Olympics, although people see it in different ways. You had the communists looking at it as a place where they could prove that they were superior to the others. When the Soviets came, when the Chinese came, the East Germans came, and similarly the lesser developed countries try to prove they are developing by showing some performance in sport. Yet there are some very poor countries like Kenya and Ethiopia which win that race. So it's a very interesting development, the story of sport in the history of mankind. And in fact, BBC has done a wonderful introduction to the Olympics, depicting how from the normal skills of animals that we have evolved has come the jumping, the throwing and the sprinting, and that's the basics of all the Olympics. So the journey of Indian athletics definitely is fascinating, starting from a man called Norman Pritchard who won us 2 silver medals and nobody knows him, and we don't actually know whether we should own him also as an Indian. And from then onwards, after independence, what has happened with Indian athletics? The male athletes like the Milkhas and the Gurbachans dominating the early part, 70s seeing the emergence of Kamaljeet Sandhu, by mistake winning an Asian Games gold medal, and then the surge of the Kerala woman, and now it had become woman all the way and the men are slowly coming back. So that's the sociological evolution of athletics in India. The women who were normally considered to be staying at home have come out, and especially from Kerala we've had hordes of them, now from Bengal and Orissa also coming back into the fray. So all in all, a very interesting development with some fascinating performances in the earlier years, which is sad that we have not responded to in that same spirit in the latter years.
Wow, that's such an interesting journey. Now, before moving any further into the discussion, let's first show you these visuals regarding the history of the athletic sport.
खेल कूद की दुनिया का इतिहास दौड़ने, भागने या कूदने जैसे खेलों के साथ ही शुरू होता है। प्राचीन ओलंपिक खेलों में मेन स्टेडियम रेस की प्रतियोगिता होती थी, जिसमें खिलाड़ियों को 192 मीटर की दौड़ पूरी करनी होती थी। उस जमाने में भी दौड़, लंबी
क्या है
कूद,
voice over?
चक्का फेंकने और भाला फेंकने जैसी प्रतियोगिताएं हुआ करती थीं। 1896 में जब पहली बार आधुनिक ओलंपिक खेलों की शुरुआत हुई, तब से एथलेटिक्स की प्रतियोगिताएं खेलों के महाकुंभ में आकर्षण का सबसे बड़ा केंद्र साबित हुईं। दुनिया के सबसे तेज भागने वाले इंसान का फैसला, वो भी पलक झपकाते हो, इसके रोमांच के सामने बाकी खेलों का रोमांच कहां ठहरता है। आधुनिक ओलंपिक इतिहास में अलग अलग तरह के 52 इवेंट का आयोजन किया जा चुका है। हालांकि मौजूदा समय में 24 इवेंट में प्रतियोगी हिस्सा लेते हैं। शुरुआती दौर में एथलेटिक्स प्रतियोगिताओं में केवल पुरुष हिस्सा लेते थे। 1912 में अंतर्राष्ट्रीय एथलेटिक्स संघ के गठन के साथ ही एथलेटिक्स खेल की लोकप्रियता दुनिया के दूसरे देशों में भी बढ़ने लगी। 1928 के एम्स्टरडैम ओलंपिक खेलों में पहली बार महिलाओं को एथलेटिक्स की प्रतियोगिताओं में हिस्सा लेने का मौका मिला। और अब तो महिला एथलीट उतनी ही प्रतियोगिताओं में हिस्सा लेती हैं जितने इवेंट में पुरुष एथलीट शामिल होते हैं। ओलंपिक में हिस्सा लेने वाले सभी देशों ने एथलेटिक्स की प्रतियोगिताओं में हिस्सा लिया है, लेकिन शुरुआत से ही इन प्रतियोगिताओं में अमेरिकी एथलीटों का दबदबा रहा है। 1960 के दशक में लंबी दूरी के दौड़ वाली प्रतियोगिताओं में अफ्रीकी एथलीटों का दबदबा शुरू हुआ। वहीं महिला वर्ग में सोवियत संघ और बाद में उससे अलग हुए देशों का दबदबा देखने को मिला। लेकिन समय के साथ इसमें दूसरे देशों के एथलीटों का प्रदर्शन भी लगातार बेहतर हुआ। ओलंपिक में एथलेटिक्स प्रतियोगिताओं के फाइनल राउंड में 60 से ज्यादा देशों के एथलीट शिरकत करने लगे हैं। ओवेंस, पावोनॉर्मी, कार्ल लुइस और यूसेन बोल्ट जैसे बेहतरीन एथलीटों ने ओलंपिक खेलों का रोमांच कई गुना बढ़ाया है। ओलंपिक एथलेटिक्स की प्रतियोगिताओं में भारत की ओर से नॉर्मन प्रिचार्ड ने पहली बार 1900 के पेरिस ओलंपिक में हिस्सा लिया था। उन्होंने पेरिस ओलंपिक में 200 मीटर दौड़ और 200 मीटर हर्डल दौड़ में भारत को सिल्वर मेडल दिलाया। ये दोनों पदक ओलंपिक खेलों की एथलेटिक्स प्रतियोगिताओं में भारत की अब तक की कुल जमा पूंजी है। प्रिचार्ड के बाद भारतीय दल 1920 के एंटवर्प ओलंपिक खेलों में हिस्सा लेने पहुंचा और हर 4 साल बाद भारतीय खिलाड़ी एथलेटिक्स की प्रतियोगिताओं में हिस्सा लेते रहे। 1956 के मेलबोर्न ओलंपिक में मिल्खा सिंह 200 मीटर और 400 मीटर की दौड़ प्रतियोगिता में शामिल हुए। लेकिन उन्हें जिस प्रदर्शन के लिए याद किया जाता है वो 1960 का रोम ओलंपिक था, जहां ओलंपिक रिकॉर्ड बनाने के बाद भी मिल्खा सिंह पदक से चूक गए। मिल्खा ने 400 मीटर की दौड़ में ओलंपिक रिकॉर्ड जरूर बनाया, लेकिन 3 एथलीटों का प्रदर्शन उनसे भी बेहतर रहा। मिल्खा 0.1 सेकंड के अंतर से चौथे स्थान पर रहे। इसके बाद 1976 के मॉन्ट्रियल ओलंपिक में भारत के श्रीराम सिंह ने 800 मीटर की दौड़ में शानदार प्रदर्शन किया, लेकिन अंतिम राउंड में वे 7वें पायदान पर पहुंच गए। हालांकि 1 मिनट 45.77 सेकंड का उनका समय 40 साल बाद भी नेशनल रिकॉर्ड बना हुआ है। ओलंपिक इतिहास में भारतीय एथलीटों की बात उड़न परी पीटी उषा के बिना अधूरी होगी। 1980 के मॉस्को ओलंपिक में पीटी उषा भले ही कोई कमाल नहीं दिखा पाई हो, लेकिन 1984 के लॉस एंजलिस ओलंपिक में 400 मीटर हर्डल दौड़ के सेमीफाइनल में पीटी उषा ने सबको पछाड़ दिया था। ऐसे में उम्मीद यही थी कि वो भारत के लिए ओलंपिक मेडल हासिल कर लेंगी। लेकिन फाइनल राउंड में वे सेकंड के 100वें हिस्से से कांस्य पदक चूक गईं। इसके बाद भी पीटी उषा 1996 के अटलांटा ओलंपिक तक हिस्सा लेती रहीं, पर वे अपने ही करिश्मे को दोहरा नहीं पाईं। इन एथलीटों के बीच लंबी कूद की अंजू बॉबी जॉर्ज का नाम भी शुमार है। 2004 के एथेंस ओलंपिक में अंजू बॉबी जॉर्ज ने 6.83 मीटर की छलांग लगाई। इस छलांग के साथ वे पदक तालिका में 6ठे स्थान से बेहतर नहीं कर पाईं, लेकिन 12 साल बाद भी ये नेशनल रिकॉर्ड बना हुआ है। जाहिर है ओलंपिक के 100 साल से लंबे इतिहास में एथलेटिक्स में भारतीय खिलाड़ियों का प्रदर्शन चुनिंदा मौकों पर ही खास रहा है। ट्रेनिंग से लेकर फिटनेस तक के पैमाने पर भारतीय खिलाड़ी एथलेटिक्स की प्रतियोगिताओं में दुनिया भर के खिलाड़ियों से पिछड़ते रहे हैं।
Mr. Rajaraman, now let's come to you and please tell our viewers about the changes that have actually taken place in the athletic sport. Things have changed so rapidly in the game and even otherwise in the sport of athletics. The spikes, the war, the shots, the kit and the tracks the athletes had, the kind of massive resources which are available in the form of data and information. How has athletics changed in particular from the yesteryears in the way it was perceived and understood by the masses?
To be honest, athletics has remained the same. You still run, you still jump and you still throw. The way you do it has got better. Obviously fiberglass poles for the pole vaulter. Pits for the jumpers, they had to jump on sand pits at one point of time. Now they've got foam pits, the high jumpers and the pole vaulters. The fear factor has come down greatly. And then the quality of the track, Milka ran on cinder at one point of time. Gurbachan Singh Randhawa ran on cinder. So from cinder to tartan track, I think it's been a remarkable journey to get back to journeys. Lots of good things have happened, but at the core it remains the same, that it's man versus man, woman versus woman. It's about human endeavor. It's about getting slightly better, and the use of technology, as you pointed out, it's very important that people understand the human mechanics a lot more, the kinetics a lot more. I think the greatest change is in the mental preparation rather than the physical preparation. Everyone's training smart now. People used to train for long hours, and Rupi will be the best man to tell us about that. People used to train really long hours. Now it's become training smart. Take for example Usain Bolt. He's right now not in peak condition. He's got a torn hamstring, but very likely he's going to be in the Olympics, and he'll probably be in medal contention one more time. That's because science has advanced so much. Recovery is faster. There was a time if you had a hamstring problem, you were out for 6 weeks, and God help you. But now there is the doctor helping people, so there's lot that has happened. But at core, like I said in the beginning, at core it remains a fascinating contest between man and man, man and woman, everything else being equal. Sometimes of course the pharmaceutical companies have come into play. That's very sad for people who believe that everything that they watch on television or in stadium is the best that they can get. The moment drugs come into play and some athletes get away, there is an obvious advantage. So we now start watching athletics with that 1% cynicism, which is not very good. We must be able to watch all sport without any kind of hesitation. That's probably what has transformed us a little bit. But the moment we see Usain Bolt on track, we tend to forget everything else and just go and enjoy that fascinating performance that he lays out for all of us. Not just him, there's several champions who we will keep our eyes on. But yes, the Indians will be our focus, as many as 36 of them. Going to be a big challenge for them. There is talk about how they are likely to win medals. If a couple of them make it to the final, we should be happy. You spoke about how the number of people is more than doubled. So last time we had a couple of them in the final. So if we get 4 people into the final, I think we should be really happy.
Great. Talking about doping, doping is a very important issue today in the world of athletics. How did that become so prevalent, and the change from the simple diet to doping?
See, the first ever person who was found guilty of abuse of drugs, and I won't call it doping at that point of time. It was a Swedish pentathlete who had an extra shot of alcohol perhaps, and he was banned from the game. Subsequently, the pharmaceutical companies came into play. There are steroids, there are stimulants, there are a whole lot of things. There are prohibited methods, there are prohibited substances. It was pharmaceutical company versus pharmaceutical company. For a long time we used to believe that it was the Eastern European nations which were in charge of all of this. But it turns out that even someone like Marion Jones, if I'm not mistaken, in the US, some of the real big names in the US have been caught doping. Carl Lewis has been found guilty of using stimulants 3 times, but he's gotten away every single time. He's had expressions which have been accepted. One of the greatest athletes of all time, with as many as 9 gold medals against his name. Terrific performer. But when a name like Carl Lewis comes out as someone who has been found guilty of a dope violation, even though he's not had to face a suspension, then you start questioning everybody. So it's not just the Eastern Europeans, even in the US. And I remember there was a time where the Chinese came out big. Ma Junren was a coach there, and he produced lots of world-class runners, and there were doubts about his methods, and suddenly those world-class runners have all gone.
Yeah, that was the Ma's Army, as it was called. And well, what I wanted to add to Raja's talk was the biggest shocker that really came, which shook the world, was Ben Johnson. That was 1988 in the Seoul Olympic finals, after he had beaten Carl Lewis for the gold medal. And that very night, when he tested positive for anabolic steroids, and the word went around, I was there in Seoul, this rumor went around, and there it was. Nobody could believe it. Ben Johnson, the way he had done it and the way he looked back, on his shoulder to see where Carl Lewis was, the defending champion. It was all over, and the next morning he was hounded out, and off he went to Canada.
And we all learnt a new word, stanozolol.
Yes.
We hadn't heard of this before, but thanks to Ben Johnson we got to discover a drug called stanozolol.
And insiders say that Florence Griffith Joyner, who won the women's 100 meters there, her record still stands at 10.49. This outstanding records like Schmidt in discus 70.48 in 1970 still stands.
Yeah.
People are being tested more regularly and not getting away with it, and therefore the discus throw winner might throw only 65 now. Why this drop? It's pretty evident.
Oh yes, yes.
And
yes.
Florence Griffith Joyner, as Rajaram mentioned, came from the United States of America, slightly more influential in that Olympic family, and therefore at that early stage getting away with it. In fact, Marion Jones, I saw her in the Sydney Olympics getting away with 5 gold medals. Only later, when Balco, the lab, was blamed, and there were rumors even in Sydney that anti-doping people knew they had caught her husband in the shot put and expelled him, but because he was not such a big star, they could get rid of him. They could not get rid of Marion Jones. So there is the politics behind the sport at the highest level, which is a little bit disturbing in the enjoyment that you see.
Sure.
When, say, a Bolt comes up against Gatlin, and both of them are physically as good as each other, but just that mental factor of the confidence of Bolt takes him past Gatlin. So if you are watching at that, that's okay. But if we go into history, Gatlin has been caught also and suspended for doping and is coming back. So there's a lot of ifs and buts, but when you finally see the sport in its raw form, it is the most thrilling and enjoyable.
Oh, yes,
Enjoyable
absolutely.
sport.
It's the mother of all sports as far
Great.
as the Olympics are concerned.
Talking-
And just one little thing, just you mentioned Flojo.
Okay.
And Flojo, in my point of view, was the most glamorous woman athlete that I've ever seen. And when she won, she had fingernails, different colors painted, when she won the 100 meters in Seoul, and it's unfortunate she's late flojo now.
Yeah.
Right,
She
but
didn't last because of.
But talking about London Olympics 2012 now, I mean, India won 6 medals, but unfortunately our athletes, though they performed well, but were not able to clinch any medal. Out of the 14 qualified athletes, 8 were men, 6 women. Let's talk about the men's Olympics first. Irfan Kolotunthori, I mean, he set the national record at 120.21 with the 10th rank. How could he have performed better?
Well, he could have performed better, but I think his level of consistency was not there.
Okay.
And now he's not a member of the 20-kilometer walk going to Rio. So he's been dropped. So he's not done anything close to that 120 that he got in London.
In London.
It's been 4 years. And in the last event in Jaipur, he finished 4th in the qualifiers. So he couldn't make that cut. There are only 3 who are allowed per country who qualify within that. There were 7 Indians who qualified within that timing, but unfortunately only 3 can get onto that bus to Rio, and Irfan is not one of them.
But to be fair to the man, nobody expected him to finish 10th in the world. At the Olympics in London, nobody expected him to finish 10th. When he was with the leaders, a lot of people were surprised at the halfway stage that an Indian was among the leaders. Nobody believed that. I believe that he's played a minor role, not a minor role in ensuring that there are more walkers going in. Walking is no longer fashionable. It has been taken seriously. There are lots of people who are walking competitively. So Irfan has contributed. Unfortunately for him, he misses out this time.
Yes,
but that's how the sport is.
In fact, Irfan was responsible in starting a revolution which actually started at the Commonwealth Games when Gurmeet Singh won a bronze medal and Reliance sponsored him.
Okay.
The man went around in Patiala with a big golden chain and a Fortuner, and everyone started seeing walking as something that could take you to glory. And you go to Patiala now, it's the most serious bunch of trainers, both men and women, with Gurmeet, one of the head people, coaching them, and it has been a remarkable story how the walkers have taken up and done well. And India, mind you, is probably in, like Kenya and Ethiopia, they have a wealth of talent in long distance running and walking which has not been encouraged, and that is the reason why we have records which are as ancient as Sri Ram's record set in 1976. There's a boy called Jinson Johnson who's equally good, if not better. Many years in the past we've had many more athletes. They haven't had the exposure. For example, today we are sitting here and discussing the gold medal, and the ministry discusses a scheme called the tops. I am more interested in the bottoms, because the bottoms make the top. The tops need not be interfered with or coached or anything, the kind of support that they are giving. But the bottom, there is a girl called Lily Das who will be competing 2 days from now in the World Junior Championships, a 16-year-old girl from the hinterlands. Similarly, there was a girl from Kerala, Beena Mall, who won an Asian Junior Track and Field 206 way back, but went on to reach only the semi-final in 400 meters at the Sydney Olympics. She could have been a gold medalist in 800. So it's the Lily Dases of the world which we are not paying attention to. And by paying attention, I don't mean the money to be showered on them, the respect in terms of the inputs that we give to the young athletes. Where is the inputs for the young athletes?
Talking about
Look at the kind of
Milkha
inputs we are spending on the top people. They don't need it at this stage.
They don't need it at that stage.
The need is at the basic stage. The earlier we wake up, the better. India has the talent galore to do well, and what we are discussing is only the tip of the iceberg, what we see at the Olympics.
Talking about Milkha Singh, he is the legend of the Indian athletics, known as a flying Sikh. But the record that he set, it was almost broken after 56 years. Now, why is the country producing few Milkha Singhs, or like, why is that happening, and what can be done in this regards? What can be done?
There are lots of reasons. It's not down to some simple reason.
Okay.
There are lots of reasons. There are different ways in which people have competed. Milkha, for example, coming out of poverty, some woman, for example, finding the gender discrimination, and so on and so forth. But The point is, what has the system done? The whole world has improved by leaps and bounds. We have improved, but like you're saying, once in 60 years. Athletics is a sport where you get caught out.
You get caught
in
out.
hockey, in cricket, in football, you don't get caught out so glaringly as in athletics.
Okay.
In athletics, you can go around and say, in 1960, Milkha Singh ran 45.6. Today, 56 years down the line, a boy is qualified for 400. We are feeling very proud. He's run 45.40. Only 0.20 we have improved in 56 years. There are two different ways of looking at it. Can we glorify it? Yes, well done, we've finally broken the record. Or can we say this is very little progress? So
what can be done? I mean,
what has to be done is what I outlined.
Okay.
We have to go down to the kids,
the
and
training,
teach them young and teach them solid. You don't let them at the mercy of physical education teachers who themselves are not responsible because they have not been taught. Most of the coaches we have at the national camps themselves have hardly said any sports science or any studies for that matter before they do their coaching experience. So we have to get the wealth of experience to sport. It's not only about sport, it's the knowledge of all other things which finally counts and take them to the top. You're talking about reaching the top, not becoming a lawyer or a doctor, one of the millions.
Absolutely.
You're talking of becoming number one. So the inputs must be number one, and the earlier you start young, the better. China has shown it. They of course use some illegal means, but the system is there. They go down to the basics, they get the mass, they look after the base. If I look back at athletics, when we competed when the young in the 70s,
right,
it was a lot of people from public schools and well-educated people still taking part in sport. Now the way the sport has progressed, today in Delhi you will not get a boy from Delhi Public School or Modern School or Sardar Patel or Mother School. It will be only government schools. And 90% of them are not being educated. They're just professional athletes from the age of 14, 15. So this is very surprising. And this is what keeps us back. Look at how Kenya has made progress. Contrast them with our distance runners. We have equal good talent. Forget systems. Kenya's systems is as bad as ours. But the Kenyan individual athletes have the guts to go out. You have a race in Cherrapunji, he will land up from Kenya spending his own money to compete. An Indian boy from Delhi will think twice before even going to Cherrapunji to compete.
And that's the inspiration.
They have competed so often, and our individuals, the beauty about athletics is it's an individual sport. You need not worry about the system. If you go out there, take on the world, and many of our long distance runners can do that. For example, Khetaram ran 13:37 at the Asian Games. When he runs in India, he runs 14 minutes. Bahadur Prasad, I remember, was running in the same era as me. 14:05 used to be his best. A coach of Steve Ovett came to the country, took him to England. His first race in England, 1991, he ran 13:29.71, which still stands as the national record. We must be ashamed of that, because after Bahadur, we've had 15 or 20 athletes better than Bahadur. But why have they not broken the record? They have not gone abroad to compete.
And what about...
Right now, we had a meet in Hyderabad and they won in 14:06. The boys are capable of running 13:26. For heaven's sake, send them to conditions which are conducive to improvement. The good thing is some people are getting exposure. We had a long jumper who was not considered capable of even entering the top scheme. They took him to Almaty. There was altitude. The resistance was less. He jumped 8:14, 8:17, 8:19. 3 jumps breaking the national record. And if you look at statistics, the man who won the gold medal in 2012, Greg Rutherford, jumped only 8:24. And this boy jumped 8:19. No one had the vision that he is capable of doing it. So if you are not going to have the vision of the talent that you possess, you are obviously not going to get the results.
And what about PT Usha? What made her so special? What was it about her that took her away?
I would imagine PT Usha I saw her run the first time she ran in the Olympic Games as a 16-year-old in Moscow. She ran the 100 meters. Of course, she didn't qualify past the, didn't get into the next round. But that was the start. And then it was her sheer determination, good coaching, and whatever facilities, they were pretty primitive at that time. And the exposures that she got by and by. And then, well, starting off with the Asian circuit, constantly among the medals in the Asian Games or the Asian Championships, eventually to be crowned the Queen of the Track,
Queen of the track
in the 1986 Seoul Asian Games. And before that, of course, when she went for the 400 hurdles at LA in the 84 Olympic Games. And she came, well, 1/100th of a second outside the bronze medal. But it was sheer hard work and determination.
Determination.
Yes, absolutely, and there was no shortcut,
no shortcuts
to it.
To consider, because PT Usha in 1984, her third 400-meter hurdles race, ran 55.42 without much technical knowledge of the hurdles, and that still stands as our national record. After 84, Usha herself stayed at national camps, attended by expert coaches, so to say, the best schemes, but she never improved. And this is not to the fact that she was not capable. In 85, she ran at the World Championships and she beat a girl called Debbie Flintoff King. Debbie Flintoff King from 85 traversed to 88, 3 years of competing at the top circuits. It's not the Olympic year that you start competing. You start competing much earlier. Debbie Flintoff King, much lesser talented, much weaker, much shorter than PT Usha, won the gold medal at Seoul Olympic Games. So the kind of talent Usha possessed, we didn't realize her potential. I would put it down to a failure of the system. I will agree on a basic fact that perhaps the Europeans, the Jamaicans, the Russians are much more talented. But when we get that 1 in the millionth, like we got perhaps Milkha Singh, or we got Gurbachan Singh Randhawa, or we got PT Usha, why can't we make that count? That is what hurts a bit. Masses, okay, it will take time. It's a process of evolution. It's a process of learning. That's all acceptable. But when you get that gem of a person, in fact, I was studying in London that time doing my sports science, and my coach who coached Sebastian Coe said, Rupinder, why don't you bring her here? She will win the Olympics. I said, I am not boss there. There is someone else sitting. And he says, even a bad plan is worse than no plan. You tell me, what is her plan? I said, her plan is she's waiting for the bosses to give her a ticket to go and compete. So if you're looking at that level of planning, then you shouldn't be thinking of Olympic medals. It must improve.
That's a great insight. Now let's have a look at the visuals showing us the contingent going for Rio Olympics 2016.
भारत के ओलंपिक इतिहास में एथलेटिक्स प्रतियोगिता में सबसे ज्यादा खिलाड़ी रियो ओलंपिक में शिरकत ले रहे हैं। ओलंपिक क्वालिफिकेशन के अंतिम दिन भी 3 एथलीटों ने रियो का टिकट हासिल किया। सबसे बड़ा सवाल यही है कि क्या रियो में भारतीय एथलीट्स इतिहास बना पाएंगे? हालांकि इस बार माना जा रहा है कि 100 साल से भी लंबे अंतराल के बाद भारतीय खिलाड़ी इतिहास बना सकते हैं। इस भरोसे की वजह कई एथलीट हैं। ऐसे एथलीटों की सूची में डिस्कस थ्रोअर विकास गौड़ा का नाम सबसे ऊपर है। हालांकि रियो ओलंपिक से ठीक पहले उनके कंधे में चोट लगी है, लेकिन विकास गौड़ा ने भरोसा जताया है कि 12 अगस्त को होने वाले इवेंट से पहले तक वे पूरी तरह से ठीक हो जाएंगे। मौजूदा एशियाई चैंपियन विकास गौड़ा 2014 के कॉमनवेल्थ खेलों में गोल्ड मेडल जीत चुके हैं। 66.28 मीटर का नेशनल रिकॉर्ड भी उन्हीं के नाम है। लेकिन अपने चौथे ओलंपिक को यादगार बनाने के लिए 33 साल के गौड़ा को अपने स्तर से बेहतर करना होगा। शॉटपुट में भारत की उम्मीद इंद्रजीत सिंह पर टिकी होगी। इंद्रजीत सिंह एशिया के नंबर 1 शॉटपुटर हैं। रियो का टिकट हासिल करने के लिए उन्होंने 20.65 मीटर की दूरी तक गोला फेंका है। 2015 के एशियाई एथलेटिक्स चैंपियनशिप का गोल्ड भी इंद्रजीत सिंह जीत चुके हैं। रियो में भारत की सबसे बड़ी उम्मीद इन्हीं से होगी। रियो ओलंपिक क्वालिफिकेशन के अंतिम दिन जिस अंदाज में रंजीत माहेश्वरी ने क्वालिफाई किया, उससे उनसे भी पदक की उम्मीद है। लॉन्ग जंप में 24 साल के अंकित शर्मा के दावे को भी मजबूत माना जा रहा है। अंकित ने 8.19 मीटर की छलांग के साथ नया नेशनल रिकॉर्ड बनाकर रियो ओलंपिक का टिकट हासिल किया है। 800 मीटर की दौड़ में जिनसन जोहानसन ने भारत की ओर से अब तक का दूसरा सबसे बेहतरीन प्रदर्शन करके रियो ओलंपिक का टिकट हासिल किया, लेकिन पदक तालिका में जगह बनाने के लिए उन्हें और भी बेहतर करना होगा। वहीं 200 मीटर दौड़ में 36 साल बाद भारत का कोई एथलीट ओलंपिक में हिस्सा लेगा। हरियाणा के धर्मवीर सिंह ने नया नेशनल रिकॉर्ड बनाते हुए रियो का टिकट हासिल किया। महिला वर्ग में उड़ीसा की दूती चंद ने 100 मीटर के लिए क्वालिफाई करके अपनी क्षमता को जाहिर किया है। ऐसे में उन पर भी नजरें टिकी होंगी। वैसे भारत की उड़नपरी पीटी उषा के लिहाज से ट्रैक एंड फील्ड इवेंट में पदक की सबसे बड़ी दावेदार 4x400 मीटर रिले की टीम है। इस टीम में निर्मला शेरॉन, टिंटू लूका, एमआर पुवम्मा और अनिल्डा थॉमस शामिल हैं। इस टीम ने 3 मिनट 27.88 सेकंड के समय के साथ रियो ओलंपिक के लिए क्वालिफाई किया है।
Well, that's a very long list of the contingent this time. 36 athletes in the men and the women's category. Okay, let's talk about this. Who is making the country proud this time? Who is the next, Milkha Singh?
Well, I don't see anybody in this whole batch of 36. As Raja was mentioning in an earlier comment about a few of them making it to the final round, I shall be delighted to see that happen.
Right.
But as far as the medals are concerned, well, I don't see it. There may be a great
Are we being
outside
negative
chance.
here?
No, I'm not being, I'm very realistic, and I have my head on my shoulders all the time. So we've got to call the spade a spade. And we've seen Ranjit Maheshwari, who has recorded the third best distance in the triple jump for the year 2016, when he broke the record of Arpinder Singh. And however, the records, as we have seen him in the past, he's been to a few Olympic Games, there have been more foul jumps than the legitimate ones. And if he were to do this, well, as I said, this is the third best timing, third best distance. So let's hope he can improve on that. So I'll be happy that he's there in the top league to fight it out. But in my opinion, that's the best timing. Then the distance, I'm sorry. Then the other good factor has been the 4x400 meter relay team, which is a distinct possibility of making it in the final 8, which is the 8 finalists who come in to race for that. As far as the shot put is concerned, I don't think they're still about 1.5 meters to 2 meters behind. The Americans are far too strong. Plus, there is a lot of challenge coming in from Poland and certain other parts of the world. And as far as the other events are concerned, I see the sprints as a non-starter, whether it's Duti Chand or it's Shrabani Nanda or it is our 200 meters lad. So I don't see too much in it. As far as Johnson is concerned in the 800, he's got the second best timing after Sriram Singh's record, which stands established in 1976. I was fortunate to do commentary of that 800 meters final, won by Alberto Juantorina from Cuba. And Johnson, I think, is at least a good 2 seconds. He'll have to improve on that one, which is a Herculean task to make it into reckoning. So that way, you see, there is still a lot of disparity. And if you note that the qualification timings or the qualification standards for coming into the games, most of the athletes have just narrowly bettered it and come into the team.
I think just to add to what Anupam is saying, a lot of our athletes expend energies and their strategy is to work very hard to be able to make the cut, to just to qualify. Once they do that, I'm not saying they're lazy, but they find it hard to improve on that performance.
Why? Why?
Because it's not easy for everybody. It takes a Michael Phelps, for example,
Alison Felix, for that matter,
to win the US swimming trials and then to go on to win the Olympic Games as well. The US trials sometimes are difficult. Like to qualify for Jamaica, the 100 meters race would be perhaps as good as a World Championship race. Similarly, the US race. In India, you've got one or two athletes who push each other and then get to the Olympic qualifying mark. After that, it gets a little tricky for them. They're all talented if they work hard, if they get the right support at the right time. It's not as if they need support now. They needed to be supported for 4 years. Then you would find excellent results. I will not be surprised if a walker makes us proud by getting into the top 6. Getting a medal will be just beautiful. But I think a walker will surprise a lot of us.
Yes, a walker, I agree with Raja. The Japanese are very, very strong in these walks. And I would imagine that we had Irfan, who finished at number 10 the last time in London. Let's hope one of the 3 walkers can do something and improve on that position. I wouldn't say medal contention, but I'd say if he can come into the single digits, why not? I think it's well
and
done.
Khushbir Kaur as well, the 20 kilometers walk for women. If she gets into the frame, into the picture in the final stages of the walk, I won't be too surprised. I have a feeling that the walkers will surprise a lot of us because our focus has been on the Ranjit Maheshwaris and the Duti Chands in the last few weeks, where the sprinters and the ones who need explosive energy have done well in the last month or so. There have been doubts expressed whether the clocks have functioned well or not, because there have been too many quick times that have come through. In particularly not the best weather conditions, so people have had their doubts, but we should not be cynical. We should appreciate the performance. They have done exceedingly well, but can they make it to the world grade? That I have my doubt. There would be a couple of finalists definitely. The walkers can surprise a lot of people.
And there will be lots of new faces who we are not really, I'm not talking of the Indians, but I'm talking of the global who are not stars at the moment. Suddenly there will be a shooting star coming out from nowhere and surprising everybody. So that's what's going to happen. You mentioned about Alison Felix.
Yeah, but I'm keen to talk about her. What is it that...
It's her 4th Olympic Games.
What is it about her that the Indian athletes can learn from her?
She's come back so strongly. Her first Olympics was when she was 18 years old. And then 2 silvers. And then in the 3rd, in that battle with the Jamaican sprinter in the 200, and she gets the better of her. And now, irony of irony, again in the US trials just a few days ago, she fails to make it. She finishes 4th, so only 3 can take part in the 200 meters. So she is not part of that squad. However, she won the 400 meters. She was looking for a double, 200 and 400 meters. But unfortunately and alas for her, it's only going to be the 400 which she'll be attempting, besides the 4 into 100 meters relay. And as a matter of fact, she had put in a request to the organizers to stagger, the timings for the 200 and 400, so that, and they reciprocated. They made the schedule in such a way to accommodate her, but eventually it's all gone off in smoke.
Okay,
to be fair to the athletes, let's not look at it in terms of winning medals. Let's look at it in terms of how much they can improve. And that is going to be a significant thing, judging from the timings that they have got here, that if they can perform at the top stage this way, we'll be looking at maybe a Jinson Johnson breaking Sriram's record. We will be looking at the 4 into 400 meters, perhaps breaking the 3-minute barrier. We will be looking at Tintuluka maybe squeaming away into the final. We'll be looking at the women's 4 into 400 team, maybe breaking a national record which was set in 2004, and we can be proud of it. So let's keep it at measurable things which we think they can achieve and call it a good achievement, rather than look at medals and get disappointed. If I was to be marketing Indian athletics, I would have been saying that 2 of us are sure medal prospects. We have Our 2016 best 4 into 400 meter men relay, if you go through the IAF list, we are second ranked, and Ranjit Maheshwari is third ranked. So there you have statistically medals, but realistically far away from it. And that's what both these gentlemen put rightly. Olympic medals realistically out of the way. Can we improve? How much can we improve? Can we learn how to stay with our best performances?
Stay with our best
For
performance.
example, Ranjit Maheshwari went and fouled 3 attempts. Imagine the basic thing that you learn as a triple jumper. You go to the Olympics, you get 3 jumps to register 1 jump, and he could not record even 1 jump. So that's the kind of mismatch we have seen in the past. A lot of shot putters have qualified, gone to the Olympics, made 3 foul throws. The quiet voices doing the rounds is they don't want to get tested and they will be doped. They do not compete so often in the European meets lest they be caught up. So all these things have to go. We must face reality. We must compete more often. We must be visible in the intervening years and not just wake up in the Olympics if we have to be considered. For me, Lily Das is the future. Or there was a boy called Jugantar Shekhar who jumped 7.79 meters at the long jump. And you have millions of youngsters who are world class but don't transform that potential because we don't even bother to respect them. That is the minimum. They keep
You
talking about
mentioned
money.
Lily Das. What is it about
you
her?
Watch her performances. 19th to 24th she will be competing in the World Youth Championships, and watch her performances. 206 and 429 in 800 and 1500 meters at the national. A girl from such a poor background with meager coaching inputs, no competition at the top level can produce such fabulous performances. So there's lots to talk about in
phenomenal.
terms of the individuals competing. Like PT Usha, 84, she ran 55.42. Now tell me, she competed till 96, 12 long years. You could not get her to improve. Don't tell me she was not physically capable of beating Debbie Flintoff King. I'm not going to buy all those excuses. We have not done justice to the potential that we have shown in the past, and we are not even learning in certain cases from the history, which is surprising. Take for example Milkha. Milkha, poor chap, very poor, struggled through without his parents, very good story, learned from 56, came to 4th place in 60, but his coach was dismissed from the Indian system. He started to coach in Michigan University. He still till today, when we were making the film, says that Milkha would have won the 800 meters gold medal at 1964 with a new world record. He was so talented, but he was spoiled by the riches. He became director of sports and he refused to continue, which we can understand considering the poverty that he struggled through. His son of course got it all, and he's one of the most lovely gentlemen you can meet in golfing world. So that's the difference in the aspirational levels. We were talking about Alison Felix, but that's a country where they've gone miles and miles. Maybe Jesse Owens had to struggle in 36, but not Alison Felix in 2016. So there's a huge difference, and they have fought for it. We are still in the process of fighting and developing for a more scientific system.
So in the first place, we need to, and I get back to an earlier question of yours, we need to understand that sport is not a priority in this country. You're not going to find champions just like that. If parents are going to push children to study hard, especially in the urban areas, and if in the rural areas it's all about roti, kapda and makan, who's going to play sport? Until we become a sporting nation, until we become serious about sport as an avenue to earn a living, we're never going to find the champions. If you're going to work in post and telegraphs or in railways or in Indian Airlines, you're never going to become a world champion. So to become a world champion, you got to do what Abhinav Bindra did, become a monk, go away from India, do what Prakash Padukone did all those years ago. He went and settled down in Denmark for 5 years, did not watch a single movie, and then became a world champion.
It's
great.
He was a monk, and that is what we need from our athletes. Yes, they have the facilities now. Where Rupi trained is completely transformed. In fact, the cinder track doesn't even exist in the National Stadium anymore. But The facilities have got better. Thanks to the Commonwealth Games around the country, you've had some very interesting developments. Lots of national games have produced very good tracks around the country. But we need a whole attitudinal change. Until that comes, you and I will keep discussing why is Milka's record still existing?
Still not
Why can't we
All
break
right.
Sriram's
The
record?
positive thing that has happened is athletes have started to make this. Normally they're coming from poor backgrounds, post and telegraph services, they have no chance of thinking of going abroad. But a youngster called Siddhant Tingalaya, he broke Gurbachan Singh Randhawa's long-standing record and got himself based in Australia and the US, and is currently now running 13.54, which was a significant improvement on Gurbachan Singh Randhawa's record, but of course, albeit so many years later. That's the way to go. More and more athletes will go abroad. He hasn't qualified, by the way. He is one of our greatest athletes in setting this trend, which will allow Indians as individuals to go abroad and start winning medals, even though the system will be fast asleep.
Vikas Gowda is another.
Sport. Vikas Gowda has done well because his father used to triple jump with us at the nationals. He realized if he is born and brought up in India, he has no chance. He went and settled in US, brought him up through the collegiate system of the United States of America, which has to be given credit for his development, not the system of India. So Siddhant Tingalaya is the first, I would see, of an individual who's gone on his own accord. Vikas Gowda got the happiness of going through his father's decision. Vespers pushed Leander Pace. Abhinav Bindra was fortunate. He was not the most talented, but his father had a vision, Abhinav had a vision, and this mental vision is more important than the physical capabilities. And Abhinav Bindra is a beautiful story because he has shown the Indians the way to do it, even though you do not have the potential. Usha, in terms of physical potential, was 100 steps above Abhinav Bindra, but poor girl does not have a gold medal because the system did not give it to her, and she was poor enough not to have a vision, and a coach did not have a vision for her. The American universities had lined up in India to take her there with her kind of talent that she showed in 1984, a raw girl. I saw her grow up in 1978 at the Quilon Nationals, ran bare feet in the Nationals under 14 and 100 meters long jump and hurdles. So that kind of talent did not get converted. Whereas Abhinav Bindra, with the vision of his father and himself and the capacity of money to contribute and live abroad as a monk and get the best coaches, realized that is the way. Now why aren't we following it? We have many Abhinav Bindras down the way, and it is a perfect example of showing the system how you can do it. And I hope more than the system, which I'm not so hopeful about, individuals start doing it, because there is nothing to stop individuals. We can become world champions in individual games, as we have done in badminton, because we had one Gopi Chand, one Prakash Padukone to inspire. Imagine if we had hundreds. The system is made. We don't need these administrators, we don't need these federations, we need professionals to encourage the youngsters. There are many professionals who are now taking it. They are outside the sport and they are encouraging, and their results have shown results in India, like Abhinav Bindra's father did, and Bindra himself had the dream to win. We are not dreaming enough. None of our federations believe our kids can win. When you don't believe that Lily Das can win and is a future medal, over 12 years you're never going to win. Let the kids start dreaming. That is the first step, and pray if the individuals can do it. Now I don't blame any federations. I think it's down to the individuals. Abhinav has shown the way, and we should be doing it on our own.
Well, that's lovely. Now coming to the end of our discussion, thank you so much, guests, for coming to the Olympic Hour. Mr. Singh, Mr. Rajaraman, Mr. Gulati. Now we wish the Indian athletics team all the very best from the team here of DD Sports. Do well, shine, good luck, and goodbye for now.